Martin here from the Red Hot Copy Peppers. Check us out on the 21st of October at Lost Lane, where we're going to be recreating the entire Slane 2003 setlist from start to finish. A show not to be missed by any Red Hot Chili Peppers fans. We'll see you on the 21st of October. Tickets on eventbrite.ie right now.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and that cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
This is Jeremy.
That's Arthur
from Core, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
Do you know what you do to me? My tongue's all twisted in knots. Even when you're not close to me, you take control of my thoughts. Thinking bad are the things that I wanna do when you're high on me and I'm drunk on you. Cause I am bad like kerosene that is crippling me. It just seared into my brain that I cannot take. But if the best I can do is to stand right here and fantasize, and you know it's what I do to this night. My interested in me comes true. Now you see what you do to me. My head's all lost in the clouds. Even when you are smothering, I still want you around. Like a user who needs just another fix. You're not gonna change who you used to it. Obsession's overtaking me. And it's plain to see this pleasure's turning into pain, and I can't explain. But if the best I can do is to stand right here and fantasize, and you know it's what I do to this night. My interested in me comes true, then I surrender to you. Cause I am infatuated. You are the one to blame, yeah. I am the mess you made me. You know that you can show me. The best I can do is to stand right here and fantasize, and you know it's what I do till this nightmares and my daydreams become true. Cause I am infatuated. You are the one to blame, yeah. I am the mess you made me. You know that you can show me.
Jeremy and Arthur, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for being there.
It's great to have you guys now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. So, Core released Daydream Junkie back in September. What can you tell us about it?
Actually, the radio edit of that, it was initially released independently on a double disc that we did as a remake from a prior label we had. We came across communications with Pavement, the label, and Tim King, and he loved that song and coaxed us into doing a radio edit of it we trimmed it down a little bit for time, and that's what you hear. It's the finished product.
And when you were writing this song, where did the inspiration come from?
Kind of a convoluted story, but I guess the general premise of it is just a situation I was in at the time. There's things going on in my life that I probably should have had a conversation with somebody that I didn't have the guts to have. So it kind of wrote itself, like me thinking out loud without really knowing I was doing it. And it was just my side of that conversation with this person. I mean, it's kind of an emotional mess of a song, but I mean, without giving away too much specific detail to implicate anybody, that's the general theme and thesis of the song.
Right. I get you. And you mentioned it's off Broken Heart Syndrome. It was originally released in 2015, and then you guys decided to redo it. What led to that decision?
Well, the 2015 release was the label, and next to none of what was promised was carried out at our end. So we had a review clause in the contract to where I could re-record the songs and retain ownership of the master recording. I had very deliberate foray into the world of sync licensing, TV and film. So it was important that I had those rights to my ownership so that there wouldn't be any legal issues in terms of claims, things like that. So that was the general reason why to do it. But once we got to it, it didn't seem right to put out the same exact thing. So we changed a lot in terms of the kick drum tones and the bass guitar tones, and changed the mixes in the EQ and stuff, and added some stuff and subtracted a little bit here and there too. But in addition to that, I took on the challenge of doing acoustic versions of the entire record as well. So we released it as a double album, as a celebration of something new, and then B, to just really see if I had the skills to pull off acoustic versions of songs that were not intended to ever be acoustic. But the response we got upon the release was, I love the radio of the record, but we get almost more attention for the acoustic tracks. We had the guts to do something that far out. So that was kind of the ideology behind it.
Yeah. And when it comes time to making new music, then what does the dynamic look like within the band?
We don't really have any rules or format. I mean, to present has pretty much started with, for the most part, a pretty stiff outline of a song before I'll even bring it to these guys. And I think some of it's because I'm like over perfectionist about everything. I don't like to bring half-baked ideas to these guys because I've been told before, I've thrown away probably more good ideas than most people have had, but I'm a perfectionist about that stuff. So if it gets to a point where it's good enough for me, I figure they're going to probably like it, and everybody else probably will too. So,
say what you will about that. I think it makes the writing process easier for everyone, because there's a solid foundation and a groove that we can all just fall into, and much like he was saying with Daydream Junkie, the stuff almost writes itself once it gets laid down on the table.
Nice. And Jeremy, you started Core nearly 20 years ago now at this stage. How has your approach to music changed over the years?
I don't know that it really has. And the way that I started the band was, at the time I was playing with some really talented musicians, but they'd never gone out and toured. They'd never played any shows. And they were really kind of just lay in the comfort zone of playing cover songs and stuff like that. That I was like, well, we can play those songs and we'll get cheers every night. But like, I write songs, and I think the songs are as good as the songs that you guys want to cover. So it kind of started it out of frustration, because I had 5 songs that I recorded as an EP by myself. Eventually ended up on the debut album, the full-length debut, We All Fall. But when I started the band, I didn't even have a band. I just had the songs. So I put out ads on chat room boards and stuff like that around the Midwest area, just saying singer-songwriter looking for a drummer and a bass player, and pieced the band together that, but just off of the strength of those first songs. So fast forward 20 years later, if for no other reason, I just don't know any other way to do it. That's kind of how I approached the songwriting process. Now, having full-time members in a band now, obviously a lot more democracy goes in with that. But in the very, very beginning, there was nobody except me.
Right. And Arthur, anything to add to that?
It's fun. There's some stuff that's kind of in the hopper, if you will, that has just started with fiddling around at rehearsal, and then we stop to actually do stuff, and Jeremy would be like, hey, no, keep playing that, and then it's a little bit, and then starts fiddling with. So ironically, I knew Jeremy back then not nearly as well as I know him now, and we almost collaborated on a project back then, but then parted ways, and life brought us back together again. It's been
That's the version you're going to tell?
Well, I mean, if he wants to ask questions, he can, but
no, we were together on the foundation of a band that it was a blessing. They kicked my ass out of the band before we got going. But it was the right decision because the direction that band was going, and I was definitely not the right singer or person for that project. At the time, it pissed me off. So it was funny that all these years later, and we pretty much grew up together. So we've always known each other, run in similar circles, and have a lot of the same friends and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the whole version of that.
that project evolved into like this funk rock fusion sort of deal, which thinking back to that.
Oh, and it was awesome.
It's hard to picture me.
Yeah. I would have split if I wasn't kicked out. But in the early phases of that, I mean, I had no idea there was going to be dude up on stage rapping, and you had turntables and all this like crazy awesome like guitar driven rock, but with all those funk elements and hip hop stuff. So that's not my bag.
And the same time signatures and time changes, and it's fun.
Yeah, it does seem a bit different from core, all right. I suppose at this stage we'll dive a bit into your history to give the listeners a sense of where you come from musically. So it's a bit of a tough question now, but can you remember your earliest musical memory?
I don't know that I remember my mind, but I've seen the picture. When I was like 2, my parents have a picture of me like raiding their record collection. I had these gigantic oversized headphones on and was like jamming out to just music and like just putting records on my own, taking them off. So that would probably be my earliest interaction with it. In terms of something I remember, probably my earliest one would be Bryan Adams, the guy that sings Summer of '69. Dad took me to see him, and like the entire section we were sitting in was smoking. So that would probably be my earliest recollection.
I remember a lot growing up. My dad was a big Johnny Cash fan. I can't tell you how many times I heard a band named Sue growing up. Had that on vinyl, and that spun a lot. And Simon and Garfunkel, the boxer, was another one. Great songs, great artists, and that's still actually. My dad passed away in 2017, but I still have those vinyls at home.
I see. And can you pinpoint the exact moment that kind of sparked a desire to become a musician in you guys?
As early as I can remember. It's all I've ever really done. This is a strange dichotomy, but like sports and music are the only 2 things I've really had any aspiration for at all.
Really?
I suck at sports. So.
No, I didn't suck at sports. I got critically injured in sports, but it was always music. And for me, because I'm up for those 2 things, I didn't really have a core group of people that were like my people, because like football and basketball season, like my jock friends didn't understand my music friends and like would make fun of them and stuff. So I'd be in fights with them all the time. good people. Like, what's your problem? And my music friends were way more accepting of like my jock friends, but they never coexisted. It was never going to happen. So I was kind of like the odd man out in both of those kind of scenes. But yeah, it was always definitely music.
I have to ask, did you look like the sports guy that was hanging out with the music guys, or did you look like the music guy hanging out with the sports guy?
Kind of more like the music, hanging out with the sports guys.
Right.
Still do.
But I was also quarterback of the football team. But I always, and it's something that I do to this day. Like, I don't care what your things are, just be a good person and we're going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I've always sucked at sports. Enjoyed playing, but in fourth grade, the orchestra teacher came around to all the classes, and I remember her coming in and showing the class all the instruments, and she pulled up the bass, and I was just like, oh, that I want to play that. Sadly, I was too short in fourth grade to actually play the bass successfully, even standing on a chair. So they made me start on the cello, and then in seventh grade I switched to the bass. But yeah, music has been in my blood ever since I can remember.
And growing up then, your local music scene, what was it like and how does it compare to today? Has it changed much over the years?
Well, where we live, there's not really a scene at all. And the little bit that exists, we don't fit into at all. We've also never really aspired for that. I mean, we've always tried to go outside of this network. I mean, Dakota has a lot of positive things about it, but in terms of like population and opportunities for a rock band like us, and there's more cows than people in the state. But we're 3 to 4 hours away from major hubs in like Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Omaha, Nebraska, and Lawrence, Kansas, and things like that. So I guess growing up, Arthur was actually just inducted into the South Dakota Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a band he played in high school.
Right after high school.
So
Congratulations.
Yeah, and then there was another guy that was a little bit older than me and Arthur, but he was also inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a promoter. His name is Terry Taylor, and he still does promotion like nationally with the company Mammoth. But he was my first recollection of a music scene. He would book like punk shows in like rent gymnasiums where there'd be a stage on each end of the basketball court, and one band would go, and as they're done, the other band would go, and it just went back and forth like that all night. So there was that part of the scene, but it was like a punk thing that I was like, I like that music, but my brain doesn't work like that in terms of like playing music. But since then,
if you rewind about 25, 30 years ago, there was a rock club here in Sioux Falls that was definitely on the national map. Like Aerosmith kind of blew up for them when they went down there after a show they played here in town, got on stage with the band that was playing that night, and it was on MTV. And there was actually last year a documentary on this club released, but a lot of great bands went there, and there were also like a lot of creative and just good rock bands, like original stuff back at that time frame. And November 31st, 1999 was the last day that club was open. And the music scene is definitely degraded since that happened, sadly.
Well, the majority of the stuff that comes through here anymore is like pretty corporate type of things, where it's either really, really big A-list country artists. And we do get a fair share of like rock and even some metal stuff, but it's at like the Premier Center that's owned by a hospital and a bank, and like the majority of the people that are at those shows don't even know who the band is. It's kind of like high school all over again, where it's just this big event with a room full of assholes that I didn't want to ever be around anyhow. It's like, now I got to listen to bands that I love.
But you can come to our shows, said assholes. We're okay.
But it's become like corporate big money, and good for the people that are in charge of that. But it's just, to me personally, it's just gross. I don't want to be a part of any of that. And good for the bands that are getting those paychecks, because I know that they're large, but that's, I mean, about the extent of the scene here.
We've got a couple smaller clubs that support, small to mid-level touring rock acts. One in particular, although, advertising and local support could be a lot better than it is, but they do shows, so.
I'm talking about
Bigs.
Yeah, so we're doing, are you familiar with the band Trapped?
I've heard the name. I wouldn't be overly familiar.
They had a big, like in the mid 2000s, Headstrong. Yeah. So we're doing a show there with them in 2 weeks. And we have multiple dates with them before, and they're really good to us. And they're fun shows. But I mean, typically, if we play anywhere in South Dakota more than once or twice a year, it's a rare thing.
I'm dying to hear about your shows, but before we do, I have to ask, as a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you guys?
How much time you got?
Well,
Shine Down's always going to be at the top of my list. Seven Dust is always at the top of my list. We've done dates with both of those bands, which was cool because you kind of get to see it from a perspective when you're there. Instead of, although when I met Brett Smith, the singer of Shine Down, real briefly on stage when he came and asked if, or actually tour manager came and asked if we could move the rig so they could load their truss in the back of the venue. But Brett was like right here. It was so cool, and it kind of creeped me out because 6'2" and he's not, and like you see a person on TV and you think things, and you see him quite a bit shorter. But no, he was super polite and super cool, just a good human being, and all those guys, his management band and crew were. And I kind of got a little bit starstruck because I'm trying to look the guy in the eyes asking us to move our stuff. And I'm like, that's fucking Brett Smith guy down right there. And I played a show with these dudes. This is nuts. But yeah, I mean, like the dates that we did with Seven Dust, they were just down there, super cool dudes. And I mean, so those would be my top two bands that I listen to and live music too. But I mean, it's not the same lineup as it used to be, but like the Puppies, I mean, that's a 3-piece band that just freaking throws down. Beartooth, Bad Omens. I mean, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on. Those are the ones that stand out to me.
One that's definitely at the top of my list is Coheed and Cambria. I have lost count on the number of shows attended. Alter Bridge was a great one. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Metallica. I mean, that's a band that I cut my teeth on. I got my first electric bass. Seen them multiple times, and they always deliver. Yeah, Beartooth is an amazing show. If you haven't seen them live and you get the opportunity, I highly recommend it. In this moment, definitely changing gears, but man, that is a show for sure. Oh my gosh. It's such a question because I have seen so many shows. Gemini Sin was amazing live. Hour. Saw them together in Count Bluffs. That was
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah,
Pearl Jam.
Bad Flower.
Bad Flower, yeah.
I mean,
Bad Flower.
Just talk about high energy. Oh my God. That bass player actually has more energy than me on stage, which I didn't think was possible.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Like, oh my God, how is your head not falling off?
So the same about you.
Yeah. Not to laundry list it, but yeah, I mean, I love music, and when I can, I go see it and support it.
Yeah. And you guys have shared a stage with a long list of major name bands, including, as you mentioned, Shinedown, Seven Dust, Alter Bridge, Buck Cherry. The list, we could be here for hours just naming out the list. But when you're playing with guys on that level, what do you learn?
I mean, I don't know if it's something that I learned as much as it is something that we preach to each other. Is we're there to do a job just like them. And aside from like that first time meeting Brett Smith, they're not even really meeting, just standing next to him and having him like acknowledge me. I've from that point forward been very aware, like, don't be a little fanboy about this stuff. Tell our crew, like, don't be over there seeking pictures and autographs. They engage you and they want to come talk to you, then that's a different thing. But like I remember we talked about this the other day. Did a show with Hollywood and Dead, a festival show like 5 hours north of here, and it was huge. There was like 6 or 7,000 people there, and it was us and Wrapped and 2 other bands, and the contract was meet and greets for like VIP ticket holders prior to the show, and then they got for sound check. So we're in the meet and greet tent, and everybody's like, "Will you go get so and so from Hollywood?" And I'm like, "I don't know those guys," and they wouldn't get off the bus. So, but what would happen about every 30 or 40 minutes is their tour manager would come off the bus looking like he weighed 300 pounds because he had stuck a bunch of t-shirts under his jacket, come over to merch, and then he'd come back to the bus looking like his normal self. But they hung on the bus all day, all night, and didn't really engage anybody. And just they were having a good time all day, and I didn't believe the ability for them to just absolutely kill. I mean, they were one of the tightest bands I've seen. I was blown away by it. Afterwards, we were backstage and just kind of talking to the promoter and some other people, and I look over and I see our merch guy and our tour manager over there chatting up one of the dudes in Hollywood and Dead. And I was like, what are they doing? So I went over there to like break it up. And he came over, one of the guys in Hollywood and Dead is a huge horror movie fan, as is our tour manager, Bert. And this guy lived like 3 houses down Freddy Krueger, the guy that played Freddy Krueger in the movies. So they had almost identical tattoos of all these horror characters, despite meeting each other before. So that's kind of cool. But I mean, in terms of like learning from them, a lot of those bands that you mentioned, fans of. So I mean, there's definitely the lesson of the craft, how great they write songs, and then how flawlessly they perform them. At the end of the day, just like us, they're people too, and more often than not, the shows we've done, like they'll come up to us, be like, "Hey, how you guys doing? What do you think of the show? Glad it worked out. We could get you on, and you guys are awesome, or keep doing what you're doing, or how do you guys so much sound as a 3-piece?" But the thing we preach the most is like we're there to job just like them.
I don't know that it's so much I learned this, but I'm reminded every time we have those opportunities, just humble. The fact that I'm able to play, let alone play with these caliber of musicians, is a gift. I have MS, so it's been a couple scares here and there where, it's like, damn, am I going to be able to, wake up and do what I've done? And I've had breaks in playing to be ignorant, and it's one hell of a journey. And there's always little tricks like boil strings, whatever, that and there's nothing like big into my mind, but everybody's got their own experiences, and if you're paying attention to where you are, you can pick up on some little tricks and throw them in your bag and make them part of the everyday that you do.
Well, and I think, at least for me personally, I'll speak for myself, and I'm always of the opinion of, if I can't look in the mirror and be like, all right, you're good enough to be on stage, dudes, then I'm not doing something right. Like, I'm not practicing enough. I'm not, because that's our measuring stick. Like, we want to be where they are, and we are full and fortunate to get those opportunities to have. And I don't take for granted that they're always just continue to happen. But I also believe that they have continued to happen because of professionalism that we bring to our live show in general, because it is a business.
Yeah, true. And for any listeners then that haven't caught one of your shows, tell us all about it. Give us the full experience if you can, obviously without picking up instruments and giving us a show.
Well, as a 3-piece, it's something that we are really particular about how we arrange the set list, having 40 plus songs of material to pick from, and currently writing and rehearsing new songs as well. I think the biggest struggle for us is just putting together a set list where everybody's happy, because there's always something that you're going to have to cut. And then there's always at least like probably 5 to maybe 7 songs, depending how much set time we get. They're going to definitely be in every set list, no matter what. So we try to give, especially if we're playing geographically within 100 or 100 miles of another city, a slightly different set list each night. But from there, it's all energy, all emotion, all passion, a whole lot of watching this fly around the stage like a Tasmanian devil, which is awesome.
And trying to remember which bass I play on which song.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. He's got to play a different bass, different tuning or something. I'm like, dude, we don't have time for that. Try to keep it moving. We don't have a lot of like quiet time in between songs. I mean, there's a couple spots that we'll usually pick and purposely like, let's punch in the face with these first 3 songs, like a musical transition to the next song, and I'll talk over that to the crowd. But our general rule of thumb that I say before every show is like, no matter what we're playing, if I can't look out in the crowd and see that I got people eating out of the palm of my hands by that chorus, we're sucking.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we use as the measuring stick to what we're doing. But I'd say it's just high energy rock show, authentic.
Somewhat, I guess I would say also kind of how Blind Melon, stay with me on this one, how Blind Melon kind of approaches the creation of an album. If you look at all of the albums, it's a journey from the start to finish, and it makes sense by the time you're done how every song is placed throughout that album, and our shows are no different than that. No. And it's one hell of a fucking ride, I'll tell you that. So, stay tuned and show up and see us if you happen to be in the States. If we come to Ireland, we will absolutely reach out.
I'd love to come to Ireland.
That would be pretty epic. All right, you guys would tear it up over here.
It actually we had contact.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to tour the UK with Infamous Steam. Like ridiculous, like 70,000 seat amphitheaters, but it was
logistically not
thing that we were going to try to tackle. But it's cool to have, and that was again from the label, an opportunity that we got through them. And I think somebody from the label actually did jump that. Yeah. We had the conversations, okay, the expenses to get there and back and the logistics are damn near impossible, but if we can pull it off, we're playing in front of that many people every night. We didn't have to sell but to a tiny fraction of those crowds to probably pay for the whole tour. And but it was just the routing and just that I hate flying. I hate planes. Actually, I love the idea of flying, getting from one place to another in a short amount of time, but it's everything between is traumatic for me. I'm a big baby about that stuff.
We'll get into skydiving yet.
No.
And when you think of all the gigs you've played now, is there one that sticks in your mind as maybe the most perfect gig you've played? I know there's no such thing as a perfect gig, but which one sticks out?
Ooh, the tough one.
One definitely sticks out for me is when we played with Alter Bridge, for no better reason than, I've held all of those guys on this ridiculous pedestal for as I can remember. And the bus pulls up, and I remember Miles getting off the bus and just coming straight over to it, taking his hand out and saying, "Hey, I'm Miles." I'm like, I know.
We know.
Just down to earth, nice, one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah, and then him and Mark Tremonti came up to us and they were like, "Thanks for doing the show. You guys sounded great. Hope you had fun." I'm like, yeah, thanks for having us.
we had a lot of fun with one of our stage crew and his traveling lawn chair. That's a whole nother story for another time.
Another story. For me, it's so hard to pick one because they're all so unique, but definitely the Shinedown show on the Sound of Madness. That was at a baseball stadium. Absolutely sold wall to wall. And then that first 7 show probably would be the ones that stick out to me. But it's all.
Yeah.
It's like if the worst problem I have in the day is figuring out which was the least special of all, that's been a pretty good day because they were all freaking amazing.
Yeah, I get
And
you.
we've got some huge tour dates coming up in November and December that we can't announce yet, but they're pretty epic. And those are like week runs instead of like off dates. So a little bit of a nightmare logistically from a track perspective, but we're making it happen. So
Nice.
So
And
get back to us in January. We may answer that question differently.
I'll have to do that. So I'll have to do that. Now, I always say you have to have the good with the bad. So is there, out of every gig you've played now since you started playing, is there one that sticks out as the worst? And how did you overcome it?
the two, and they've happened in the last. Okay, there's three. The two I were going to say happened locally within the last calendar year, and one of which is the venue that we're playing with Trapped 2 weeks from, which was ironically with Trapped. Yeah, so they put last minute like some low 80s cover band opener that went
high school kids.
Yeah, like went over their set time, and then band that was the opener, the whole run of dates went way over their set time. We were direct support, so we're expecting 45, 50-minute set. We get up there like Trap needs to be on stage at like this time, and that's like 18 minutes away. I'm like, well, they're gonna be late.
Oh,
He's like, no, you don't understand. Like, their manager's up my ass. I'm like, that's your problem. You want to talk to our manager? Because I'm sure he'll be up your ass too. And he's like, no, you guys got to do it. You got to do it. And so I'm talking to these guys on stage because they had everything. They didn't have phantom power for my mic, the mic that requires a special kind of power source. It was just, and we're never on stage before we start anyhow. We usually have an intro track, like the house lights will dim, and then like by the time we come on stage is the tail of that. So it was a nightmare, but he's checking my guitar signal and it just slowly fizzled out.
Oh man.
So the band in front of me blew up my guitar rig, we thought. Luckily I had a modeler with me that I had never brought to a show before, but this time for whatever reason. But it wasn't but so I dialed up a tone real quick. And they just DI'd me to the front of the house. We played our 3 songs, which like, okay, because we didn't just Trapped off. I'm like, we're gonna do other dates with these guys. It's not their fault. Let's just be pros about this. And the crowd was pissed. We're like, let's go. And we had people that had come from all over the place to see us. So as we're like halfway through the 3rd song, I heard the talkback mic from the front of house guy. He's like, Trap says you guys should play more. You guys are killing it. I'm like, oh, now we get more as we're playing what would have been our last song for the set. So the monitor system was just a nightmare. So that show, and then like 3 weeks later, we did a show with Saul and Varsity, who we're huge fans of. That was just an absolute nightmare of a show. Same deal. Opening bands went way over time. Instead of telling the set was getting cut, they just turned my mic on in the middle of a song. I'm like,
Allegedly, they told us, but there was no hearing anything for those monitors.
Yeah, so
let alone up.
Of those 2 dates, I told the guys, this is early December last year, I said, all right, I'm just going to spend a shitload of money. We're building our own in-ear monitor system. I'm building an in-ear back. We're doing all of our own in-ears, so we never hear about this again. So we have it now. But those would be the 2 night shows for me, back to back.
Yeah. Those.
Well, and we had club shows that small for a long time, so it was like I was thinking this will be the most production ever because there's not much to worry about. It was a freaking train wreck.
Oh man. Oh, and when it comes to showtime, then do you guys have any pre-show or post-show rituals? How do you psych yourself up, and then how do you wind down afterwards?
Geez, I just try to get as loose as possible, and I mean, the notion of playing in front of anybody, regardless of the crowd size, gets me excited. So I really need to get too psyched up. Just get me in front of a bass and I get excited.
I'm not really around for a pre-show ritual. Usually about 30 minutes to 40 minutes before we're going to go on stage.
Antisocial bastard.
No, I'll go out to our trailer and like gargle with warm water and honey and like do vocal exercises, get vocal cords nice and loose and stretched out for usually like 30, 35, 40 minutes, maybe, just depending on how my voice feels that day. And then usually about 10 minutes before we go on stage, I'm back in the venue, just kind of preparing for what we got coming up.
Mm. Getcha. I getcha. What about afterwards then? Any big parties, any wild stories you can tell us about?
Oh, I got to. For me personally, I mean, these guys don't, but once we're done, I'm ready to just do whatever the hell I do. But typically, the routine is, and we announce it from stage, and this is 100% authentic. We go back and hang out at merch, and I'll get from the stage like, we want to meet every one of you guys. Come say hi. We're not going to press you to buy stuff. It'd be cool if you do, but if you don't, just come say hi. So that would be the routine. But on the way, there had better be a Crown Royal waiting for me or something because I don't drink pre-show. I don't party any of that stuff. My allergies don't allow me to be around anybody who smokes or anything like that because then I couldn't sing. So yeah, I'm kind of a choir boy before the show, but afterwards, like I'm just whatever happens. But in terms of stories, I guess the the one that I would tell that I'm not embarrassed to say I'm a part of is we did a festival show about 5.5 hours north of here. It was a show that I couldn't believe they wanted us on because it was Quiet Riot and Great White.
Nice.
And I'm like, have you heard our music? And they're like, everybody in Aberdeen says that you guys are the band to book because they'd seen us with Hollywood Undead and they'd seen us with Saliva and like a bunch of bands that we toured with up through that area. I'm like, well, we'll do it. Just submit the offer. I did. And I was like, well, this is a good offer. We're cool with that. I'm like, what billing are we getting? You guys are going to be direct support to the headline. I'm like, okay. But they wanted a local cover band as an opener again. So you see the theme here?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, fine. You know, the deposit contract over and we'll confirm it. So they did that. And then like 3 days before the show, the promoter called. He's like, hey, buddy that's like paying for half the show, he owns a local bar here. He wants you guys to do an acoustic, or he wants you guys to play at his the night before the show. And I said, well, we're not going to do that. And he's like, why? I said, because that's stupid. I said, I'm going to pay $60 to see us tomorrow. If they can see us the night before, you're for free. Like, I'm not doing that. But show, the headliners will probably kill all of us. Like, he's like, no, they're going to come down and hang out with you guys. I'm like, well, that's cool. They want us to do a whole set at this little shitty bar. And he's like, well, we haven't talked to them. I'm like, I want to talk to them first. What the compromise ended up being was that just me did an acoustic 30-minute acoustic set and left to the devices of my band time. This is prior to Arthur, like probably a year to Arthur. So this is probably like 8-9 years ago. The band at that time were all partakers in whatever they could partake in. So all getting hammered and stoned out in the crowd. And I didn't know that the owner of the club told them just order whatever you want for foods. The time I got done with my 30-minute acoustic set, they had the whole bar drunk and high and had enough food to feed in the bar times two. And we're getting ready to leave. And my buddy Andy, who was my bass player at the time, had befriended this Amish guy that was having an after party house, I guess, and was not going to let Andy out of his, was like trying to kidnap him to bring him to his party. And it got a little hairy there for a minute, but we've got some video to probably never see the light of day of our ride back to the hotel that the promoter had 6 just drunk as sailors and 3 of them stoned out of their minds, just telling ridiculous stories the whole way back to the hotel. So that would probably be the most boisterous one. Or the guy that was trying to pay for me after the Alpha Bridge show.
Oh, yes.
Left his kid in the
Quick
car.
note, that is the one time in recorded history where the bass player was the focus of a fan's obsession.
It's true. That is true. Because he was a stand-up comedian. He was like talking like from Scotland the whole way home. Yeah, it was hilarious. But the guy, I thought about just telling all the guy at the Alpha Bridge show backstage, behind where the backstage was, there's like fencing and then parking. Because it was at the state grounds.
And like every 5 minutes, he'd ask if any of us found any alter bridge pay. We're like, what?
Yeah, but then
We
he
gotta pray for you too.
yeah, he started saying some outlandish shit about how, like, I'm worried about you. Like, me
Yeah.
personally? Why? Like, we just and he's like,
What'd I
well,
say?
he's like, you sing about disturbing things. I'm like, it's not all disturbing. I'm like, but those are things that happen in my life. I write about what I live, and it's all real. And he's like, well, I pray for you. I'm like, we just like
In the meantime,
like,
this
we're
guy's
seeing
his daughter in his car, and it's dark outside.
Yeah,
and
he's
it's
like, my
what
kid's in my car. I'm like, maybe you should stop praying for me and go get your kid.
Yeah.
And please stay on that side of the You're scaring the shit out of me. That was wild.
Yeah, that was a little odd.
But also that was one of probably the coolest, like, band memories I have with us as a group, because I turned around and all the guys were right there, like, if this guy does anything wrong, I'm like, I can handle myself. We're fine. But yeah, that was weird. Had a girl come show once that tattooed the band logo on her chest.
Right.
Crazy. Had a boyfriend asked me to sign his fiance's breast. I'm like, is she on this? And she's like, yeah. I don't know if I feel right about this. But I did it, and I was pissed off about it. But I was like, look, these guys,
what do you do?
Pay bills. They buy merch. They're fans. Like, I don't know, maybe they have some kinky fetish thing. I don't know. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. But I mean, I didn't touch her. It was a Sharpie.
Oh man.
Yeah. Those are the cleanest ones, I can tell you.
Right. I get you. And how do you guys go about balancing your personal lives with the demands of being in a band then?
That's a good question. And if I ever come up with a good answer, I will absolutely let you know. It's family comes first. Without my family, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do, and nor would I have half of the motivation. So, but from there, it's just there's a laundry list of things that need to happen in order for us to happen, and it's simply a matter of how can we manage to get this worked out and not let other critical balls, if you will, drop. And
it is a juggling act, but right where you started is where I would start too. I mean, in fairness, like, when I met my wife, she knew who she was getting involved with, but she's also been my biggest supporter, bar none. And if I didn't have that support, we probably wouldn't be doing it to the level that we're doing it, but we would still be writing and recording. We just probably wouldn't be touring. We wouldn't probably be as aspirational about it as we are. But I mean, and honestly, there's been times where I was like, what are we doing? Like, why am I putting all this time and energy into it? Because the highs are really high, but there's lows that too, So it's like, you invest so much of your life into this. I mean, I started the band 20 years ago this month. But she's been the one that's, you don't want to quit. Like, you won't be happy with yourself or your life. And in fact, the Alter Bridge show is a prime example of that. So we had the show booked 3 months in advance, and through a bunch of political BS that happened with the promotion side of that, like, the week of the show, they're like, you're not on the show. I'm like, you're not even doing the show. It's not even your show. This was booked 3 months ago. Piss off. I'm like, what's Alter Bridge doesn't approve it. I'm like, they approved 3 months ago? No, like, whatever. So we had that time off work because they were Sturgis at the motorcycle rally the night, and we were trying to get picked up for that date too. So we had cleared that week to be on tour, basically those 4 or 5 days. Once that gets canceled, my wife's, well, I already got the time off from work, and we had just gotten from a week in Vegas. And she's like, you want to go back to Vegas? I'm like, when? She's like, then? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want back to Vegas. So she's booked the flight. So I pulled it up and literally was like just getting ready to hit enter after my card number's in. And I get a text, Alter Bridge date back on. I'm like, what? So I call these guys and I'm like, supposedly the Alter Bridge date's back on. I'm watching like the timer on this tick, like, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to complete this purchase before we re-rate your flights. And I was like, oh, great. So I made sure they were available, and they're like, what is going on with the show?
Available.
And I was like, a lot. I explained, but like, I've got 2 minutes and 14 seconds to make a decision. Do you want to do the show, or should I tell this guy to go screw himself? Like, no, let's do the show. So we did that. But before we did that, I called my wife. I'm like, all right, we're down to like 45 on the timer because she had just run to go get dinner. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, to care for. She's like, I told you to do it. And the promoter got back to us that wasn't part of the cine that now says we're back on the show. I don't shit. We can go to Vegas or we can do the show you pick. And she's like, I'm not going to pick. You can't pick right. I'm like, you better pick something because it's like 48 seconds now. Said, if you don't play this show, you're never going to forgive yourself. And I said, I don't know. I could get over another week in Vegas. she's like, call honey, but I support you either way, but I think she'd probably do the show. So that's what we did. And that's the essence of who she's been through all this. And she's been there for the highs and she's been there through the lows. And honestly, if it wasn't for support, there's probably at least two I can think of where I would have just said, like, I can always not be in a band. I have to put myself out there and just write and record music for the love of it. I mean, I got a home studio. I've accomplished amazing things. But I'm glad that she was that voice of reason. You'd be like, no, this is who you are. You can never quit. You will never quit this. So
I'm right.
Yeah. Family is all of it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And geez, you're very lucky to have her. You know, how would you like the band to evolve then? What would core look like in, say, 5 years' time in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, in like the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be headlining these venues that we're going out in November, December. That's perfect world.
I like it. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then, future plans that are set in stone. I know you told us there's something in November you can't share. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us that you can share?
We've got tour dates. We're out for a week. I can say this, I think, in Florida in November, and then upper Midwest through the last week of the year in December. Can't say who it's with. And I maybe didn't said that much.
I was going to say, let's hope you can.
Yeah, that's so I didn't get myself in trouble. But that's set in stone. We've known about that for a couple of weeks. Just keep getting told next week. So we're just sitting back trying to shut on it because it's really awesome. It's going to be amazing.
Hell yeah. You can definitely expect some new music from us the early part of next year.
Nice.
We'll call it early part of next year.
That was part of the conversation. We agreed to the offer that we have with Payton is that I'm writing and recording new music right now that I think is on point, if not better than anything we put out before. And it shows a little bit of evolution, as I think each core record has. I mean, it's fundamentally the same kind of music. It's fundamentally the same song structure for the most part here and there. But every record, you can tell, there's just a little bit of evolution to the songwriting. And Broken Heart Syndrome is a effect of the label deal that we had going back to 2015. I ended up doing that whole record here. So I learned things about production and like EQ and compression and things I never gave a crap about before, but I had to know how to do it because I knew the sound that I had in my head and I wasn't going to until we got there. So now, I mean, the benefit of that was that since then, everything that we put out, we just do here on our timeline, our schedule. So it's cost effective, but it also gives us the ability to like, maybe let's come back to that in a couple days and just see, as opposed to being like, you got 6 days to get this record done. Which I probably work better get the deadline anyhow. I can
give you a deadline
arbitrarily. I know.
Let's get done today.
Well, then we get done today. But yeah, with that in mind, with the deal with Pave, I was anticipating it was going to be for the new music. But do you know Tim King?
Not personally, no.
He's the vice president of Pavement, head A&R that gave us this. He's like, look, we can go either way. He's like, I've checked out your catalog. It's great. I trust any new music you put out to be on par with this at least. But I really, really like that song Daydream Monkey, and I think that's something special. Like, all right, where's the but? Because it felt like there was a but coming.
Yeah.
He's like, the way that our promotion team is going to handle this is we would like the song to be 3 minutes long and the chorus to hit at or before 30 seconds. I'm like, the song's like 3:25 right now. And he's like, we got to get it to 3 minutes. or if you want to do something new. And then there was another song we have called Camouflage that he really liked too. And there would have been edits there. So I was torn. And as a band, we kind of went back and forth because they've had the benefit of hearing the new music. So they're like, the new stuff. But I think what was the yeah, but I think what kind of sealed it in the end was Tim's like, look, we can go either way, and I trust you guys. I definitely want to hear the new music before we agree to do that. But we can build up a bunch of steam off of Daydream. It's a existing asset if you can figure out a way to get that time constraint. And then we've already rabid pool of people for the new music, and then we hit them with after the fact.
A pool of junkies.
Yeah, so that's the route we went. I went through and made some edits to the song. There's a musical interlude for about 20 seconds after that second chorus, actually after the first bridge going into the third chorus, that I went through and just removed that. And then the nightmare in my hands of how to surgically put the song back together. It sounded as if it was recorded like that. And I wasn't sure if I could do it. But once I got it, I'm sending it to these guys. I'm like, this is it. We got it. So I sent it off to Tim. Never been so nervous in my life, ever. And his response was overwhelming. He's like, song is fucking awesome. It's word for word what he said. And I think, so Tim is the bass player in a band called Soil. They're a huge band you look up to and adore. So to have him like say anything nice about us was great. But that as a stamp, I'm like, right, we made the right decision. And I feel like
quite the accomplished death metal thing.
Yes. What's his Embryonic Autopsy?
Yes.
Embryonic Autopsy, other bands. And he's does so much in the music industry, but to have that vote of confidence, I was like, all right, we did the right thing. And I mean, just this interview here is proof of the best team we've had around us in the history of this band, where I feel like it's not just the band that believes in the band. We've got a team of people around us that are believing in us and promoting us as well. So,
well, my wife confirmed that was the right decision. I mean, how many years now? It's not like she heard any of this stuff before. And we released the radio edit video, and later that day she's like, God damn it, that song totally stuck in my head. Yes.
She said that, and I said, tell her you're welcome. I mean, it has resonated. I found out in an interview we did yesterday that it's over 50,000 or 51,000 views on YouTube right now. So it's been out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
3 or 4,
right on there. So I mean, my definite thing is definitely music.
Like 1 week with the label. So.
No, it's super exciting though. And like you guys, you've been doing it for years, but you're finally coming into your time now, you're on the ascent.
Well, personally speaking, I think it's a really good thing that we didn't land with this stuff say 10, 15 years ago, because I was a train wreck back then.
You were, but I wasn't.
He wasn't. But, I'm just grateful.
You were a lot of fun then.
Well,
but you wouldn't have been dependable.
Right.
For any of this
I
stuff.
Still am fun, I'm just different fun.
I'd have been kicking you out of a band.
Yes.
But no, it definitely feels like that. But like I said a little bit ago, I don't take any of this for granted. Like every big show that we've gotten to, every headline show we've done where there's not many people there because they know who the hell we were. I don't take any of it for granted. I feel like it's been a gradual ascent the whole way up till now. Now this seems like it's accelerating. It's like I tell him every day, like I show him my inbox, he's like, these are all from the late. I'm like, yeah, dude, like this is all I'm doing all day, every day. It feels like it's coming out like a fire hose, but I wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, what was the point of the last 20 years of this band if we're not going to continue to push for that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose we better jump into the last couple of questions. So these are a couple of random, odd music questions just to finish up. I'm intrigued to see your answers. If you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
this is going to sound cliche, but I'd say probably John Lennon.
Right. Right. Can't argue with that.
So this. I'm sure as soon as we're done, like something will pop in my head. I'll be like, "Oh, that's what I should have said." But honestly, Blind Melon with Shannon Hoon actually there. So they were playing at First Avenue, which is a small club about 4 hours from here. This obviously prior to his death. But a friend of ours just moved to Madison, Wisconsin, and then some other friends I had in Omaha were playing a show out in Madison, Wisconsin the same night. So we're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? And we're like, oh, we can see Blind Melon some other time. So we went out to Madison, Wisconsin. Did see a very cool band called Wig with my buddies from Secret Sin out of Omaha. But and then like a week or two later, Shannon died. I'm like, fuck.
Oh man.
So if I could rewind and get that opportunity, that would be amazing.
I wouldn't blame you. And here's where the odd part comes in. If you had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician from history, who would you pick?
Cliff Burton.
It's a good one, actually. Yeah. And I suppose, a stupid question, what would you hope to learn from Cliff?
Fuck, anything. I mean, the guy was a musical genius, and what does not, well, yeah, I mean, classically trained and so much more than just a rock bass player.
I mean, again, my go-to would probably be John Lennon, but for my immediate needs and uses, I'd say probably Ben Bernsley from Breaking Benjamin. I think he's a completely underrated songwriter, and I think he's brilliant. And he just approaches songs in ways that are kind of foreign to me. That even as much as I study him, I'm like, I don't think I could ever do that, because so much of the song structure is like based around a riff, and then he'll switch into like 2 or 3 other riffs in the song, make it work, and then somehow still write these amazing, beautiful, melodic, like huge, from the mountaintop choruses that just blow me away. So blow me away for Breaking Benjamin. So yeah, that would probably be my immediate pick right now.
That was worse than your band comment.
There you go.
Claudio Sanchez would be like a very, very close second for me. That guy's amazing. His overall approach to songwriting and how he has incorporated the concept idea into, God, what is it, 12 albums at this point? I mean, it's just, and accompanying graphic novels. It's just insane.
Yeah. Some very good picks there. And the final one, so now I've been told this is impossible, but we'll see if you can answer. What song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Maybe the Benny Hill theme.
Like which one? Our songs or just
any song in general?
I've always said since it came out when I was a little kid, Release Me from Pearl Jam.
Right. What is it about that speaks to you?
I think probably some of it is just that it's a freaking amazing song, but and it's brilliant. And until I was like proficient enough on guitar and how to play it, I'm like, this is 3 chords. The whole damn song is the same 3 chords over and over and over and over. So I was always just amazed by the dynamics. And a lot of it's because of Eddie Vedder's voice, like the way that he can just, I used to always say, I get questions like, who are my vocal influences? And I would say him, even though I don't sound anything like him, because what I try to incorporate in my own singing and never really noticed until I heard it in his, like if I used to say that if Eddie Vedder sang Mary Had a Little Lamb, you'd be able to tell what kind of day he was having just by the way he sang that song. Everybody knows, because he's got that kind of tonality to his deliverance, and it's so powerful. And so that, and just the ethereal feel of all of it, because this was a whole nother story, but we had a interview where a question like this came up, but it was like, when you die, what song do you want to play at your funeral? And I was like, like But it was like a contest of who could. I'm like, winner right here, release me. Like, top that for a funeral song. You can't do it. And then everybody would go around. I'm like, no, it's release me. But yeah, I've always thought that. And then I've seen Pearl Jam like 5 or 6 times, but I saw them in an amphitheater probably around like 2002, outdoor show in Missouri. And being a huge rock band, like we come out and we're throwing haymakers like right out of the gate, right? That's what most bands do. They come out and they're so badass. They open with "Release Me." I'm like, oh my god! I'm like, these guys are bosses. Like, and he just kills it, you know. And he's like, you know, all the like just mumbling stuff that he does before he starts singing. When that comes through a PA and you're in an amphitheater with like 40,000 people, like, oh my god, his voice is so powerful. So, I mean, for me, that would be my canned answer.
Well, good one.
So, as always, the disclaimer of this could be answered differently, you know, in 20 minutes. There's two that come to mind readily.
Scotty doesn't know.
What?
He knows that song.
I didn't hear what you said at first. Took a second to fully travel. So the first one, "Against the Wall" by Either. You know, we were all born for greatness, whether we recognize that or not. And life is a series of misunderstandings and fucked up circumstances, is what it is. But it's also what we make of that mess as we're going through it. And it's a great song, very melodic. The other one that comes to mind would be "No Excuses" by Alice in Chains. And a lot of the same great reasons involved there. And I identify a lot with a lot of Lane Staley's writing when he was, in some of his low points and higher, and all of it. But, you know, at the end of the day, we all do some really messed up shit, whether we're high, drunk, or sober. And you know, how did you get there? Why? And what do you do now? That's always the
Well, you
question.
were in that same place at that time, you know, in your musical landscape that you guys shared that moment, really.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad that you're out of it.
Yeah, you and both. For so many reasons.
Good answer. Good answer. Listen, guys, it's been an absolute blast now. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. We'll have to get you on again in the future.
We would love it. Thank you
Hope
for your
so.
time, and thanks for having us.
Upon you
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.